Hello there, and welcome to this special boring history episode on the rather disturbing lives of the Victorian workhouse poor. Let me know in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. Make yourself comfortable, dim the lights, breathe deeply, let the stress of the day fade away, and allow your thoughts to drift gently back in time. It is a quiet evening in a long-forgotten part of the city, where cobblestones glisten under a sky the colour of old parchment. A soft mist coils through the narrow alleys, wrapping itself around chimney stacks and the sagging shoulders of buildings that have seen better days. You walk slowly, your footsteps muffled on the damp ground. There is no rush, only stillness, and a sense that something unseen is waiting. Ahead, a gate stands beneath a cracked archway. Iron bars, cold to the touch, frame your entrance to the world you never thought you'd reach. Faint letters are painted above it. St. Bartholomew's Union Workhouse. The paint has faded, the wood is warped, but the name remains. A thin stream of lantern light seeps through a window just beyond the gate. Someone opens it from within. You step forward, and the gate closes behind you with a soft final thud. Not loud, but firm enough to make your breath pause. Inside, everything feels heavier. The air, the silence, even your thoughts. A narrow passage stretches ahead, the floor swept but worn smooth by countless shoes. Walls of grey stone rise up around you, tall and indifferent. A single lantern flickers, casting long shadows across the hallway like faded brushstrokes on a canvas. You are not alone here. A man in a plain wool coat gestures for you to follow. He does not speak. He does not need to. His pace is steady, unhurried. You walk behind him, your boots echoing softly on the stone. You are led to a small room, the receiving ward. The door creaks as it opens, revealing little more than a bench, a folded blanket, and a shallow basin of water. A chill lingers in the air, clinging to the walls like old wallpaper. A matron, her hair tightly pinned beneath a white cap, enters, behind you, holding a small book and a quill. She does not look up as she asks your name, then your age, then your trade. There's no judgment in her voice, only routine. A few marks in her book, a nod, and you are left alone in the quiet. The bench beneath you is hard. The blanket smells faintly of soap and smoke. You sit still, listening to the distant ticking of something unseen. A clock, perhaps, tucked behind some door. The rhythm of time moves differently here. Not forward, but downward, into stillness, into silence. The light dims slowly, not all at once. Evening melts into night like ink in warm water. You lie down, curling the thin blanket around your shoulders. The floor beneath the bench feels colder now, or perhaps it's your own warmth fading. You try to remember when you last felt truly warm. Not from weather or tea, but from safety. You close your eyes. Outside, a wind brushes past the building like an old memory trying to return. Inside, there is nothing but the soft creak of beams and the hum of stillness. Sleep does not come easily, but it comes. When you open your eyes again, it is morning, but not a soft golden morning with birdsong and open shutters. Here, the day begins with a bell. It rings in the corridor, not harshly, but with a kind of solemn duty. One tone, then another, each ring drawing breath from the walls like the start of a ritual. You rise slowly. Your body aches, not from motion, but from stillness. Cold seems to cling to your skin. A different man now waits outside the door. His eyes are tired but not unkind. He gestures. You follow. A narrow washroom holds a basin and a line of plain garments. You are instructed to undress. Your own clothes, thin and worn, are folded away to be kept in storage. In their place, you are handed the uniform of the workhouse. Coarse linen, stiff at the collar, rough at the seams. The colours are dull, like everything else here. Muted browns and greys that blend into the stone walls. The fabric itches your neck as you fasten the top button. You glance down at your boots. They are mismatched, but solid. You have no mirror, only the sound of your own breath to remind you that you are still you. Breakfast follows. A line of quiet figures stands in the corridor, tin bowls in hand. When it's your turn, you're given a ladle of gruel. It steams gently, though the warmth barely lasts. You sip it slowly, tasting almost nothing. Still, it fills your stomach with a dull, comforting weight. After breakfast, the first day begins. You are led to a long corridor that opens into a yard. The ground is packed dirt, swept but never clean. Grey walls rise on all sides, tall and windowless. There is no view of the city, no hint of the world outside. Your task, you are told, is to break stones, not for building, not for roads, just to break them. A pile sits in the corner, waiting. You are given a hammer, its handle worn smooth by countless hands before yours. The work is simple and endless. Each strike makes a dull sound against the stone. There is no hurry, but there is no stopping. Around you, others work too. Some older, some younger. Few speak. The only voices are of tools against rock, of footsteps shifting in the dust. The air smells faintly of lime and cold iron. Time passes in long stretches. There is no clock here, no chimes to divide the day. Only the quiet movement of bodies in rhythm, like a tide coming and going. At midday, another meal, another bowl, the same gruel. You sit beside a man with sunken eyes who hums softly as he eats. Not a tune you recognize, but one that seems older than memory. He does not look at you. He simply hums and eats. Afternoon returns you to the stones. The rhythm resumes. Your arms ache, not sharply, but deeply, like something settling into your bones. The world narrows. There is only the stone in front of you and the sound it makes. And then the bell rings again. Evening. The sky is now a dull shade of slate grey. You are brought back inside to the dormitory. A long hall of identical beds. Iron frames, thin blankets, no pillows. You are assigned a number. Your bed is against the far wall. You sit for a moment before lying down, the blanket pulled up to your chin. Around you, others settle in. Some shift, some whisper, most simply breathe. Outside, the wind has returned, but softer now. It brushes against the windows like a lullaby. The lamps are extinguished one by one. Shadows stretch slowly along the ceiling, growing longer until they fade into darkness. You close your eyes, there is no comfort here. But there is stillness, there is quiet, and for now that is enough. The bell does not so much ring as it rises, slow and hollow through the long corridor, like a forgotten voice calling from under the floor. You are not startled awake. You were never fully asleep. The thin blanket twisted around your legs, the stiffness in your arms, the ache at the base of your spine, they all remind you that this is not a place meant for rest, only for lying still until movement is allowed again. You sit up, quietly, like everyone else. The dormitory is a long hall of narrow iron beds lined in perfect symmetry. The windows are high and frosted with morning breath, letting in a cold light that does not warm, but only reveals. The lines on faces, the wear in fabric, the slow shuffle of men who have learned not to speak unless addressed. There is no sound, except for the soft rustling of clothes being straightened and boots sliding on stone. No one says good morning. It is not that kind of place. The air in the corridor is colder than the dormitory. The floor is always just slightly damp, as if the building sweats through its stones. You follow the line of bodies heading to the washroom, each person a reflection of yourself, thin, quiet, wearing the same coarse coat, the same dull eyes. In the washroom, the water is cold, always cold. There are no towels, just the cloth you carry, damp from the night before. You wash your face, splash, your hands, and feel the chill settle into your skin like dust into cracks. The soap smells of lye and rust. There is no mirror, just your own breath and the stone wall in front of you. From there, the line leads on to breakfast. The dining hall is not grand. It is not even large. It is simply another room. Long benches, plain tables, bowls stacked neatly. The gruel comes, ladled from a copper pot, each portion measured with quiet precision. The woman who serves it does not look up. She has ladled hundreds before you, and will ladle hundreds more. You sit and eat. The warmth of the gruel is the only soft thing this morning. It touches the back of your throat with a tired sigh. There is no salt, no sugar, no spice. It is food in the technical sense of the word, and for now, that is all it needs to be. After the meal, work begins. You are led through the east yard, past the laundry building and the iron gate that is always locked, even when no one is near it. A man with a ledger checks your name against a list. He does not greet you. He simply gestures toward the back wall, where a wagon full of firewood waits to be split. You are handed an axe. Its handle is smooth from use, the head nicked and heavy. You are not told how long the task will last, only that it is your task. The wood is stubborn, thick and knotted. Each swing of the axe sends a quiet tremble up your arms. The rhythm becomes your world, the crack of timber, the sound of breath, the way the cold air sharpens your senses without waking your spirit. Around you, others work as well. Some hammer nails, some scrub stones. A boy carries pails of coal, his hands red from the weight. No one speaks, yet there is a strange companionship in the silence, an understanding that speech does not survive easily here. Hours pass. You feel them not as minutes, but as repetitions. The same movement again and again, until thought gives way to repetition, and repetition becomes survival. There is a pause, only when the bell rings again. Midday, The gruel is thicker, slightly, though it is hard to tell if that is true, or if your hunger imagines it. You sit in the courtyard to eat. The ground is bare, the benches made of stone. There are no trees, no flowers, just sky, clouds, and the slow breath of a city you can no longer see. A woman across the yard coughs softly into a cloth. A man with a crooked back hums under his breath, barely audible. You watch a sparrow flutter down near the fence, pecking at crumbs that were never there. It does not stay long. In the afternoon, your task changes. You are brought to the laundry shed. Steam rises from the stone tubs, mingling with the smoke from the fire outside. Your hands are placed into cold water first, then into warm. The linen you are given is stiff with old soap. You scrub the cloth against a ridged board, over and over, the rhythm slow and deliberate. Each wrinkle smoothed, each stain attacked. It is not work that ends. It is work that continues until you are told to stop. The heat and wetness cling to your arms. Your fingernails grow soft. Your knuckles redden, but your mind drifts. You imagine the people who once wore these garments. Perhaps a maid, perhaps a clerk. Someone who no longer remembers they once had their collar cleaned by someone else's hand. Maybe by yours. Occasionally you glance out the small window, high on the shed wall. It shows only sky, grey and constant. But sometimes, if you're lucky, a bird passes by. Eventually, the final bell rings. Evening has returned. Your shoulders sag as you walk back to the dormitory. The hall is quieter now, if that's even possible. There is less tension in the air. Not peace, but resignation. You can feel it in the way men lean slightly back as they sit, in the way the boy from earlier scratches a tune on his knee as if remembering music. Supper is the same as before, warm but thin. You eat with both hands wrapped around the bowl, as if it could warm your fingers from the outside in. You savour the last sip, not because it is delicious, but because it is the last. The dormitory smells faintly of damp linen and old boots. The lamp above the door flickers as the warden makes one slow round, his footsteps soft on the stone. You lie down. The blanket is rough, but familiar now. You stare at the ceiling. There is a crack that curves slightly like a river, running from one beam to the next. You wonder how long it's been there. You wonder how many eyes have followed that same crack, night after night, waiting for sleep. The air cools. Outside, the wind moves slowly through the courtyard, brushing past the walls. With a patient hand, you turn to your side. You think of home, though the image grows fainter. You think of your name, though no one has spoken it today. You think of the sky and wonder if it will be blue tomorrow, or grey again, or perhaps hidden altogether. The workhouse holds its breath. It does not sigh, it does not sleep, it simply waits for another morning, for another bell, for another pair of feet on the stone floor. And you, wrapped in your stillness, begin to drift. The bell comes early again, as it always does. It does not apologize. It does not wait. Its tone is not cruel, but it is final, resigned and practiced, like someone gently clearing their throat in a library that forgot how to smile. You wake, though you were never deeply asleep. The kind of rest found here is not the rest of warmth or dreams. It is more of an absence, a soft lowering of breath and thought, like lying beneath water and waiting for nothing. You open your eyes to that same grey light filtering through the frost-dusted window panes high above, where morning seeps into the dormitory like cold tea into linen. You sit up slowly, bones creaking in soft protest. Around you, other shapes stir in the gloom. There are no greetings, no shared yawns or whispered jokes, just movement. Just the quiet sound of cloth sliding over skin, of feet finding the floor again, of another day beginning exactly like the one before. The floor is cold, the walls are colder, but you have grown used to that now, not in the way that invites comfort, but the way one grows used to hunger or silence. You rise and wrap your blanket with the same tired precision as always. Fold it, place it by the foot of your bed. One man coughs into the crook of his arm. Another lifts his boots slowly, wincing as he forces his swollen feet inside. There is no ceremony to any of it, just necessity. The washroom is filled with misted breath. You stand in a line that does not shift or speak. The water is still bitterly cold, and your fingers sting when they touch it. You splash your face out of habit more than need, and dry with the rough cloth hanging near the basin. The soap is gritty today, a stronger scent than usual, maybe carbolic, maybe just older than it should be. You do not ask. Dressing feels less strange now. The uniform is no softer, but your body has stopped fighting it. The fabric still chafes in the same places at the wrists beneath the collar, but your skin has learned its silence. You dress with care, because to appear careless is to invite attention, and attention here is rarely a kindness. Breakfast is served in that same low hall with its stone benches and tired walls. The light comes in through a narrow slit near the roof, not enough to warm, only enough to show the dust in the air. You hold your bowl gently, as if it contains more than it does. The gruel today has a thin skin on top, a memory of heat rather than heat itself. You peel it back with your spoon and eat slowly, the taste as bland as ever but filling in its own strange way. Afterwards, the line forms again. You are not told where you're going until you are already on the way. Today, your task lies in the sorting room. The walk there takes you past the women's wing, separated by a high stone wall that lets through only the occasional echo of voices or footsteps. The sorting room sits behind the laundry, a small building with a pitched roof and crooked beams. Inside, the air is musty and dry, filled with the scent of old cloth and dust. You are given a seat at a long table where piles of used garments wait in silence. Shirts, trousers, skirts, scarves, each one worn, each one marked by the life it once accompanied. Some are torn, some stained, some still hold the faint trace of perfume or pipe smoke. You do not ask whose they were. That is not your place. Your job is to sort them, fold what can be salvaged, set aside what must be burned. The woman supervising you wears a bonnet pulled tightly over her greying hair and carries a notebook with names you'll never hear spoken aloud. Her voice is not unkind, but clipped, efficient, practiced, as if her breath were rationed just like the food. The work is slow. Fabrics pass beneath your fingers one by one. A coat with a missing button, a pair of socks with careful stitching, a child's glove, a handkerchief with initials too faded to read. There is something strangely intimate about it. You are touching the private remnants of people you'll never meet, their warmth long since gone, their stories folded into creases and seams. A shawl smells faintly of lavender. A blouse carries the memory of rain. You begin to wonder if clothing remembers who wore it. The hours slip by without drama, just motion, just the scrape of chairs on stone, the rustle of fabric, the occasional click of chalk in the matron's hand as she marks her list. No one speaks, but you hear the room breathe, the way quiet things always do. At midday, the bell rings again. You return to the courtyard for lunch, your bowl filled once more with that same grey offering. You sit near the wall where the sun sometimes touches the edge of stone, if the clouds are feeling generous. Today, the sky is heavy and flat, the colour of ash. A wind stirs your hair, then leaves. It does not stay long. You eat slowly, holding the bowl in both hands. Across from you, a man with a lined face hums beneath his breath. You cannot place the tune, and he does not look at you, but it is soft, familiar in a way you cannot name. After the meal, the afternoon brings another task. You are led to the stairwell of the main building, long, narrow, dusted with cold. The railing is made of iron, worn smooth by decades of palms. Today, you will be sweeping the halls and landings. You are given a brush and a bucket and instructed not to miss the corners. Always the corners. The broom bristles are stiff and frayed. The dust rises slowly, not in clouds, but in whispers, catching the light. Like tiny ghosts, you move carefully, quietly. It is a kind of dance, slow, repetitive, almost sacred in its stillness. Each step is measured. Each breath is deliberate. You think of nothing in particular. That is the workhouse's greatest talent. It teaches the mind to drift, not to dream, but to float, not to resist, but to soften, like cloth soaking in cold water, changing shape without complaint. As you sweep the final stair, your eye catches something scratched into the wall behind the banister. A name, perhaps, though it's half erased, or a date, or just a line. You don't touch it. You simply look for a moment longer than usual, and then turn away. The bell comes again, low and deep. Evening. You wash your hands in the same cold basin. The water darker now with the dust of the stairwell. The soap slips from your grip once, and you catch it with a wet slap against your palm. No one laughs. No one watches. You dry your fingers on the corner of your coat and return to the dormitory. Supper is quiet. The spoon taps gently against the side of your bowl as you stir the last mouthful. A man nearby snores softly before he even finishes eating, his head bowed over his food. No one wakes him. There is no point. The lamps are lit earlier now. The air outside carries a bite sharper than before. You wonder if snow is near. You hope not. There are cracks in the window panes and gaps beneath the door, and your blanket is thin. Back in bed, you lie still for a long time before closing your eyes. Your body feels heavier today, not in pain, but in weight, as though the dust of the stairs, the fabric of forgotten clothes, the silence of the sorting room have settled somewhere inside your ribs and decided to stay. You listen. The wind outside is steady tonight, a single note stretched across rooftops and stone. You hear footsteps in the corridor, measured and slow. Perhaps it's the warden. Perhaps it's a nurse. Perhaps it's just the building, remembering someone who once walked these halls and never left. Your breath deepens. You pull the blanket higher, and just before sleep takes you, you think you hear someone whisper a name. Maybe yours, maybe not. It lingers only a moment. There is no sunrise here, not the kind that spills gold across your floorboards and fills the morning with possibility. Instead, the day begins with a light that merely happens, thin and grey, like the underside of a pigeon's wing, settling slowly through the high windows and dusting the dormitory in soft shadows. The bell calls again, as always, not cruelly, not kindly, simply with the certainty of something that does not ask to be understood. Its tone vibrates gently along the stone walls, stirring sleepers who never fully slept. You sit up, bones quiet, body already anticipating the cold air before your feet touch the ground. Today, the dormitory feels smaller, the beds closer together. The breath of the man in the next cot mingles with yours in the still air. Someone clears their throat softly. Someone else stretches without sound. You fold your blanket once, twice, and place it neatly where it belongs. The corridor outside is dim, and the lamps along the wall are still lit. Small flames fluttering behind glass, as if uncertain whether their work is done for the night. Your steps are soft, unhurried. No one runs in a workhouse. The very air discourages it. In the washroom, the same ritual continues. Cold water in the basin, rough soap, the scrape of metal bucket against stone. You splash your face, not to awaken yourself, but simply because it is what must be done. The towel is thin, still damp from yesterday. It no longer matters. You dress. Each button finds its place with quiet familiarity. The fabric presses against your shoulders, your wrists, your neck, but you no longer resist it. Like ivy on brick, it has found its grip. Breakfast is silent. Gruel again, faintly warm, the steam curling into the stillness above the table. You hold the bowl close, not out of hunger, but to catch the last of the warmth before it vanishes. You watch the surface of the liquid shift as you tilt the spoon. It moves like mist over a river, slow, yielding. No one speaks. A man at the far end of the room drops his spoon, and it clatters once against the floor before the silence returns. He does not look up. No one does. After breakfast, you are led down a corridor you have not walked before. It is narrower, lined with storage cupboards and narrow doorways. The floorboards here creak with more personality, and the ceiling seems lower. The warden walks ahead of you, his coat swaying at his knees. You wonder where he slept last night, if he dreamed. At the end of the hallway is a room lit by a single, tall window, dusty with the memory of long winters. This is the mending room, your new task. A row of wooden tables sits beneath the light. At each one, a pair of hands move slowly over worn cloth. You are shown to your place, given a shirt with torn sleeves and a dull needle already threaded with coarse thread. You have not sewn before, but that is not important. The work teaches you. Your fingers learn by moving, stitch by stitch, the cloth draws itself closed. The tear becomes less noticeable. The sleeve regains its shape. Around you, the others work in silence. Some older women, faces carved with soft lines of long days, mend socks and cuffs with hands that seem to remember another time. A younger boy threads buttons, his brow furrowed in careful concentration. No one needs to be told to stay focused. The quiet insists on it. There is something gentle in the rhythm of mending. Unlike stone breaking or hauling coal, this task does not bruise. It soothes in its own way. Hands moving, eyes watching, breath slowing. You feel as though you're helping time itself repair the edges of what has worn away. The bell for midday arrives more like an exhale than a chime. You place your needle down carefully and stretch your fingers. A warmth has settled in your wrists, unfamiliar but not unpleasant. The courtyard is still grey, but the sky has lightened a shade, as if considering the idea of spring. You sit on the edge of a step, eating your midday bowl. It tastes the same, but something in the wind feels different, slightly softer, slightly slower. You watch a patch of moss growing between the stones. No one planted it. It simply arrived and remained, a quiet kind of victory. In the afternoon you are assigned to the scullery. The room is filled with the smell of damp ash and metal pans. A row of sinks lines the far wall, each with its own brush and basin. You are shown how to scrub pots until the bottoms shine, how to stack plates so they dry without spotting. The water is lukewarm at best, tinged with soap and effort. It is not glamorous work, but again, the rhythm becomes its own kind of comfort. Dip, scrub, rinse, stack. You think less here, or perhaps more clearly. Your thoughts wander not in circles, but in gentle paths, like someone strolling through a fog-softened garden. You remember the sound of rain on your childhood window. You remember a voice, maybe your mother's humming as she stirred something in a kitchen not unlike this one. The memory fades before it finishes, but the warmth lingers. Someone nearby hums a quiet tune. Just a few notes. You don't recognize it, but you follow it with your thoughts until it disappears again into the sound of water. The bell for evening is more welcome today. Your back aches, but in a familiar way. Like a stretch too long held, finally released. Supper is the same. A bowl, a bench, the sound of spoons. You eat slowly, watching the shadows grow longer across the stone floor. The lamps are lit one by one, their soft glow stretching across the low ceiling. For a moment, the room looks almost golden. Back in the dormitory, the air feels heavier than usual. Not oppressive, just still. You sit on your bed before lying down, your boots set neatly beside you. The blanket, rough as it is, holds a hint of warmth tonight, as if it too is tired and willing to share. You lie on your back, staring at the same crack in the ceiling. It has not changed, but now it feels like something familiar, like an old friend who never speaks, but always stays near. Outside the wind has returned, but it sings tonight instead of groaning. A higher pitch, a gentler rhythm. Somewhere, a door creaks softly, then silence again. You breathe, not deeply, not with relief, just steadily. The workhouse does not offer comfort. It does not offer kindness, but tonight it offers quiet. And for now, that is enough. The morning light arrives quietly. as if reluctant to cross the threshold. Its glow does not spill, but rather trickles in through the high, narrow panes above the dormitory wall, muted and pale like the underside of an old leaf. The ceiling remains grey, the air still cool, and the beds stir in sequence like ripples from a single dropped stone. You sit up before the bell, not because of rest, but because your body now remembers how mornings begin in this place. It responds to the hush, to the echo of footsteps in the corridor before they even appear. The thin mattress offers no comfort. It is not meant to. It is merely there to hold you above the floor and below the ceiling, a narrow space where sleep floats like a breath held too long. Your boots wait exactly where you placed them. One of the laces has frayed further overnight. You don't mind. Your fingers know how to thread it now without looking. You stand quietly. Others rise around you. No words are exchanged. There is only the rustle of coats, the gentle scraping of beds against stone, the occasional clearing of a throat. The corridor outside smells faintly of damp wood and old wool. The lamps have just been extinguished, leaving behind the scent of warm glass and the faintest breath of soot. The line to the washroom moves slowly. Your hands are cold. The basin water colder still. You do not wince. That was in the first days. Now the shock has become routine. A flicker of sensation. A fading whisper. The soap is down to a sliver. It slips in your palm, and you catch it with practiced care. The towel dries little, but you use it anyway. It's not about comfort. It's about the order of things. About the shape of a day that never strays from its design. The breakfast hall greets you with the same dim light and hushed expectancy. You take your seat. The gruel is served. You hold the bowl with both hands. The warmth is fleeting, but you cherish it while it lasts. You eat slowly, carefully. No one speaks, but there is comfort in the sameness of it, in the way the meal, though meagre, arrives without fail, day after day, like a note in a forgotten melody. Today, your task is different again. After breakfast, a quiet instruction is passed down the line. You are to report to the main house, to assist the workhouse staff with internal duties. You are not told more than that, only that your presence is needed, and that you must come alone. You follow a narrow path behind the kitchens. The stones are slick from last night's drizzle. A bird calls somewhere above, sharp and brief. You pass through a small wooden gate and into a courtyard you have not walked before. It is quieter here, less wind, fewer footsteps. Inside, the hall smells faintly of tea and ink and something floral, like dried lavender, long past bloom, crushed into the folds of a wool skirt. You are led through a passageway with polished floors and softer lighting. The walls are lined with dark wainscoting and faded portraits. Men and women dressed in stiff collars and narrow smiles, their eyes following you with a kind of silent knowing. You are brought to the housekeeper. She is tall, her hair coiled neatly beneath a dark bonnet, and her voice, though low, carries command. She does not ask your name. She only instructs. There are brass doorknobs to be polished, lamps to be refilled with oil, shelves to be dusted. Phoebe's work is not hard, but it is precise. You begin in the entryway. A pair of boots rests neatly by the door. Not yours, not anyone's, you know. perhaps visitors, perhaps staff. You kneel beside the cabinet and polish the brass handles until they gleam faintly in the dim light. The cloth moves in steady circles. The metal warms beneath your fingers. From there, you are sent to the sitting room, a place of quiet elegance. Thin drapes, a low table, 2 chairs angled just so. You dust the mantel. You straighten the books. You wipe the smudges from a mirror that is too high to see yourself in. The silence here is different than in the dormitory. It feels arranged, as if it's being held in place by the weight of expectation. At midday, you are given a small plate of bread and a thin slice of cheese. The bread is dry, but the cheese carries flavour. A small, sharp burst of something nearly forgotten. You eat it slowly, alone on a bench outside the kitchen door, where the stone wall offers a bit of shade and the sky shows a sliver of pale blue above. You listen to the soft clang of pots being washed, the quiet murmur of 2 women speaking behind a curtain. Their words are too faint to follow. You do not try. You simply sit and let the world settle around you. In the afternoon, you are assigned to help in the infirmary. It is a long, narrow room with whitewashed walls and shuttered windows. The air smells of camphor and soap, and the floor is scrubbed to a dull sheen. You are shown how to carry linen from the warming cupboard to the patient's beds, how to fold a blanket without shaking dust into the air, how to carry a basin of water without letting it slosh. There is an old man in the first bed. He watches you with quiet eyes, but does not speak. His hands are wrapped in bandages, his breath raspy but steady. You refill the pitcher beside him, and he nods once, as if to say thank you without sound. Further down, a woman lies asleep, her hair pale as milk. A nurse adjusts her pillow, and you stand nearby, holding a folded towel. You are not part of their world, but you are allowed near it, for now. As the sun begins to lean toward the horizon, the bell calls again. You place your cloth back on the shelf, wash your hands carefully, and return the way you came. The corridors are emptier now. The wind outside has risen slightly, brushing dry leaves across the stones like a slow broom. You return to the dormitory before supper. The familiar smells greet you. Gruel, coal dust, damp wool. You sit where you always sit. You eat what you always eat. The cheese from earlier lingers faintly in your memory, like a melody remembered only by its echo. After the meal, the sky turns to slate. Lamps flicker into life along the hallway, casting long, stretching shadows across the stone. You move slowly through the corridor, not tired exactly, but slowed, as if the day has pressed gently against your shoulders. And now your body bows to its rhythm. You lie down, the cot does not change. The blanket is still thin, but your body fits into it more easily now, like a key into a familiar lock. Your breath rises and falls. The crack in the ceiling draws your eyes again, and you trace it with your gaze, like reading the same sentence in an old book. Outside, the wind plays in the eaves. A loose shutter taps somewhere above. A voice murmurs in the hall, then quiet, and as you close your eyes, you realize something strange, not comfort, not peace, but a kind of rhythm. A shape to the days, a pattern to the silence, and that, for now, is enough. There's a hush in the air before the bell sounds today. a kind of stillness that feels deeper than sleep. Outside, you can hear the faint patter of rain brushing against the slate roof, gentle and constant. It falls like the breath of the sky, soft, even unhurried. Inside the dormitory, the cold is thinner than usual, the dampness climbing up from the floorboards instead of pressing in from the windows. You open your eyes to the familiar ceiling, to the sound of someone stretching beneath their blanket, to the quiet creak of a bed leg being tested again by tired limbs. You rise slowly. No one hurries in the workhouse. Time moves as a single continuous line here, not marked by hours, but by rituals. The blanket folds beneath your hands like cloth shaped by habit. Your boots wait patiently. You press your feet inside and feel the cool leather wrap around your toes. Another morning, not unlike the last, but the rain adds something new, a rhythm above the silence, as if the building itself were listening. You step into the corridor. The lamps have just been dimmed, leaving behind a soft scent of spent oil and wick smoke. The stone beneath your feet feels damp, and your breath floats before you for a moment before disappearing into the stillness. The washroom smells faintly of cold soap and wet metal. You wash quickly. Cold water splashed onto your cheeks, your wrists, the back of your neck. The chill is no longer a surprise, only a step in the dance. You dry your hands on the fraying edge of your coat and return to the morning line, your footsteps joining the quiet procession toward the breakfast hall. The rain has deepened by the time you sit. You can hear it now against the windows in a gentle, persistent whisper. It hushes the room even further, and you hold your bowl with care, the heat rising into your hands. The gruel is thinner today. Perhaps the stores have run low. Perhaps the cook simply didn't measure. But it doesn't matter. You eat it all the same, grateful for the warmth it lends your palms, if not your stomach. Today, your task begins with wood. You are led outside, under a narrow awning that runs along the workhouse's eastern wall. The smell of wet timber greets you, earthy and dark. A pile of logs sits waiting, their surfaces slick with rain. You are handed a dull axe, and a man with a drooping cap nods once before walking away. You begin to split the logs in silence. Each swing is a slow, careful motion. The blade sinks in with a soft thud. The wood cracks, reluctant but not resisting. Rain collects on your shoulders, dampens your sleeves. But the rhythm steadies you. Lift, breathe, strike, listen. Again and again. There's something almost kind in the sound of it. Wood opening to air. Rain tapping on stone. Your own breath mixing with the breath of the earth. Others work nearby, but no one speaks. The workhouse has taught everyone to save their words, to use them only when necessary. Here, the rain speaks. For you, it fills the space between tasks with its gentle voice, and you find comfort in it. When the bell calls for midday meal, your arms are heavy but not aching. You carry the dampness inside with you, the smell of wet wood, the chill in your sleeves. The hall is warmer than outside, though only just. You eat quietly. Across from you, a woman hums to herself beneath her breath, no more than a few notes, repeating. You close your eyes and let the tune carry you for a moment. After the meal, you are assigned to the storeroom. It sits just off the laundry house, a narrow space with low beams and walls lined with shelves, crates of tinned food, jars of preserves, sacks of flour, all kept in careful order. A small window lets in the grey afternoon light, casting pale rectangles across the stone floor. Your job is to inventory the jars. You move from shelf to shelf, lifting, counting, placing. Your fingers dust each lid, turn each label toward the light. The ink on some is faded. Others have been rewritten in a tighter hand. You wonder who wrote them. You wonder what it feels like to know exactly what is in a jar without opening it. Now and then a shadow crosses the window, a nurse passing by, or a boy carrying coal. The rain continues beyond the glass. You can see it now, sliding down the pane in long, slow rivulets. The hours pass quietly, and you begin to feel the weight of the day settle into your limbs, not as pain, but as presence, a kind of grounding. The workhouse does not rush. It stretches time into shapes you can carry. Before the evening bell, you are asked to deliver a parcel to the overseer's quarters. You carry it through the northern wing, where the floors are quieter and the air smells of varnished wood. The hall is lined with chairs that are never sat on, portraits that never age, lamps that flicker behind tinted glass. You knock. A voice from within tells you to enter. You do, and the room inside is warm, cluttered, filled with the sound of a clock ticking beneath the crackle of a fire. The overseer, a man with silver-rimmed spectacles and fingers stained with ink, takes the parcel without looking up. You nod and turn to leave. His voice calls you back. He asks if the rain has stopped. You glance toward the window. The droplets still race each other down the glass. "No, sir," you say. He nods once. That is the end of the exchange. You return the way you came, the silence gathering around you like a shawl. When you step outside again, the rain has softened to a mist, clinging to the stones and the edges of your coat. Back in the dormitory, the air feels heavier now. Moisture settles on the walls, the bedding, your skin. You dry your hair with the sleeve of your coat and sit quietly before lying down. The room is darker tonight. The lamps seem dimmer. The rain has stolen some of their glow. You lie on your side, facing the window. A small crack in the glass lets in a faint hiss of the wind. It sounds like a lullaby. You close your eyes and listen. You think of the wood splitting under your hands, of the labels on jars, handwritten and careful, of the short conversation with the man in spectacles, of the weight of small things. The night does not feel so heavy now. It simply is. The morning is darker than the others. A low fog has settled across the workhouse grounds, seeping in through the eaves and resting in the corners of every window like a breath held too long. It swallows light and muffles sound, and as you wake, beneath your thin blanket, the edges of the dormitory feel blurred, softened by shadow, veiled in hush. You rise before the bell, though the difference is hardly noticeable now. Time in the workhouse is measured not in minutes, but in motions. Rising, washing, dressing, eating. You've begun to sense the hour through the air, through the rhythm of others rising around you. It's as if your body now knows its place inside the structure of the day without needing to ask. Your boots are cold, the floor colder, but you do not flinch. The cold no longer startles you. It is simply there, like a wall, like the sound of your breath. In the corridor, the lamps flicker softly, their light barely touching the fog beyond the small glass windows. The rain has paused, but the world outside is wet with its memory. Stones glisten, moss darkens. The earth smells deeper today, like roots and damp cloth and the underside of a long-turned page. The basin water bites your fingers, but the sting is brief. You dry your hands on the coarse towel and fall into step with the others, your shoulders aligning with theirs in practiced silence. Breakfast is served without comment. The gruel is thicker than yesterday, a small mercy. It clings to the spoon with more weight, and as you eat, you notice how steam curls gently from the bowl's edge. The room is quieter than usual. No clatter, no coughs, just the slow music of spoons tapping porcelain. You are assigned to the cellar today. The warden hands you a rusted ring of keys and a folded scrap of paper. No instructions beyond a glance and a nod. You follow the hallway past the kitchen and descend the stone steps, each one worn in the centre by years of descent. The air grows colder as you go, denser. It wraps around your ankles like a shawl pulled from a forgotten drawer. The cellar is long and narrow, lit by a single gas lamp near the stairwell. Its flame dances uncertainly, casting long shadows across shelves of preserved goods, sacks of dried grains, barrels of lime wash, and crates of broken things waiting to be mended or thrown away. You are here to inventory and reorganize, a quiet task. Solitary, your breath echoes slightly against the stone walls as you begin. You lift a crate lid, empty. You mark the paper. You move on. Another shelf, bottles of old vinegar, a bundle of candles bound in twine, a torn apron. As you work, the silence deepens, but it is not empty. It holds sound in layers. The soft scurry of a mouse behind the far wall, the gentle drip of water from a pipe, the muffled sound of someone walking overhead, slow, deliberate, like a memory walking on tiptoe. You pause, listening. It's not fear, just awareness. The cellar is not haunted. It is simply full of air, of age, of stories that no longer speak aloud. You dust each shelf, place the items in their order, take note of what remains. An old book without a cover, a child's shoe, a jar of nails. Some things here have not been touched in years. At midday, you carry your paper back to the warden's office. He takes it without looking, marks a note beside your name, and gestures towards the courtyard. Lunch is served on the benches under the long stone arch. You sit with your bowl, watching the fog lift in slow curtains from the ground. A woman hums softly behind you, an old hymn, though the words have long been lost. You know only the shape of the melody. The sky shows a patch of pale blue above the chimney stacks. You eat slowly, the warmth of the food steadying your hands. Across the yard, laundry flaps in the wind. Blankets, sheets, shirts too thin to hold much warmth. They move like sails caught on still water, straining gently towards something distant. In the afternoon, you are brought to the infirmary again. Today, you are not assisting the nurse, but cleaning the floors. The bucket is half filled, with warm water, the brush stiff, the soap sharp with lime. You begin at the far end near the window, and work slowly, careful not to disturb those resting nearby. The floorboards creak beneath your hands, and you move with the grain, as you were shown. One patient, a man wrapped in 2 blankets, his face barely visible, opens his eyes as you pass. He says nothing, but you nod to him, and after a moment he nods back. The sun begins to drop, long shadows stretch across the beds, and the windows begin to glow with the soft gold of late afternoon. You rinse the brush, wring the cloth, wipe the last corner of the room. The nurse thanks you with her eyes, though her lips do not move. As you return the bucket to the utility room, you pause at the stairwell. The hallway is empty. The air still, smells of soap and wool and warm iron. You place your hand briefly on the wooden banister. It is smooth from decades of palms, each one leaving a trace too faint to see, too familiar to forget. Supper is quieter than usual. Fewer spoons clink, fewer heads lift from their bowls. A stillness has crept into the evening, not heavy, just stretched like linen pulled taut across a frame. You eat slowly, the soft warmth of the gruel a comfort not in taste, but in its presence. Back in the dormitory, the lamps are lit earlier. The fog has not entirely lifted. It hangs just beyond the window, soft and silver. The panes mist over. The walls breathe slowly. You sit on your cot before lying down, your eyes lingering on the faint shimmer of lamplight across the ceiling. You lie still. The sounds of the day begin to fold themselves away. Boots being removed, a cough muffled in a sleeve, the low sigh of someone slipping into dreams. The quiet grows wider, deeper, like a blanket pulled gently over the whole building. And as your eyes begin to close, you think again of the cellar. The shelves, the dust, the items forgotten yet waiting. The echoes beneath the floorboards that asked for nothing, only to be noticed. You breathe once more, slow and full. The morning does not rush. It does not arrive in full, but rather slips gently into the dormitory, like someone entering a sleeping room and choosing not to wake anyone. The air is still dim, the light fragile, silver grey and soft, brushing the ceiling without touching the floor. You wake in it without effort, not because of the bell, but because something in you has learned the pattern of the day, the breath of the building. You rise with the others, each movement as quiet as the one before. The man beside you has a small tear in his coat sleeve. He hides, doesn't mention it, but you notice. Perhaps you'll see him later in the mending room. Perhaps not. You fold your blanket, smooth your cot, place your boots on the ground. You sit for a moment longer than usual, just breathing in the hush. Then you rise and join the slow procession toward the basin. The cold water no longer surprises you. It simply reminds you where you are, what the day will ask. Today, it is laundry duty. You are led to the back of the workhouse, where the scent of lye and steam hovers thick in the air. The laundry house stands apart from the main wing, its roof lower, its walls darker. But inside, it is alive with motion. Great vats of water bubble softly in iron drums. Ropes stretch from one wall to another, heavy with soaked garments. Steam curls up from every surface, ghosting the light that filters through the narrow windows. The woman who oversees this place has a face shaped by years of rising heat and bitter soap. She does not shout, but she watches. You know better than to ask questions. She points you toward a pile of linens waiting to be scrubbed. The wooden trough is already filled with grey water, a bar of soap resting at the edge. You begin. The fabric is heavy in your hands, waterlogged and stiff. You lean into it, scrub in slow circular motions, the scent of old dirt and damp cotton rising with each stroke. Your fingers sting, but the pain is distant, familiar, almost dull. Others work beside you, sleeves rolled, faces calm, breath steady. The sound in the laundry is unlike anywhere else. It is constant, but not loud. Just the hush of water, the creak of wood, the soft slap of wet fabric on stone. No one speaks. There is no need. The rhythm speaks for everyone. As you move from one garment to the next, you begin to notice things. Loose threads, torn seams, initials stitched into hidden hems. One pillowcase bears the faint shadow of a flower, perhaps once embroidered in brighter thread. Another sheet carries a pale rust-coloured stain, long since faded, but unmistakable. You do not wonder aloud. You simply scrub. When the first bell calls for rest, your back aches gently. Your sleeves cling to your arms, and your breath comes in slow, deeper draws. You dry your hands on your coat, sit on the wooden bench by the open door, and close your eyes for just a moment. The air outside is cool. It brushes your damp skin with the gentleness of linen drying in the wind. You eat your midday portion in the courtyard, seated on a stone step that holds the warmth of the brief sun. The gruel is the same, but your hunger is different today. You savour it slowly, not for the taste, but for the way it steadies you, like warm water poured into cold hands. A sparrow lands near your foot, then hops once, twice, before flitting off. You watch it go, your eyes following the curve of its flight across the courtyard wall. For a second, the world feels wider than these walls, more open than the ceiling of the dormitory. But the moment passes. You return your bowl, rinse it, and make your way to the second half of the day. This afternoon, it is coal. You are sent to the shed behind the workhouse kitchens, where great heaps of black coal wait in silence. The smell is thick, earthy, sharp, dry. The dust clings to everything. Your cuffs, your eyelashes, the cracks in your hands. You are given a scoop, a bucket, and simple instructions. Fill, carry, deliver. You begin with the kitchens. The cook doesn't look up as you place the bucket by the stove. She is rolling dough, her sleeves powdered with flour, her face focused. You pause only a moment before turning away. Next, the infirmary. The small stove at the back of the ward is almost out, the last coals glowing faintly. You fill the chamber with fresh ones, close the iron door, and feel a quiet satisfaction as the heat begins to build again. One of the nurses nods. You return the nod without words. You carry more to the laundry, where the fire keeps the vats hot, to the overseer's quarters, where you leave the bucket by the door, careful not to spill any dust. To the chapel, where no one is seated, but where the hearth still waits to be stoked. Each trip is slow and deliberate. The weight of the coal settles into your shoulders, your arms. But you carry it with the same rhythm as the laundry. Lift, walk, lower, return. The sun never fully breaks through the clouds. but a faint golden tone edges the corners of the workhouse walls as afternoon leans toward evening. By the time the final bell sounds, your sleeves are blackened, your skin dusted, your eyes dry, but there's something quiet in your chest. A steadiness, a rhythm that has hummed through your limbs all day and left you softer for it. Supper is slower tonight, the gruel warmer than expected. The man across from you hums faintly while eating, his eyes half closed. The sound is familiar. You heard it once before in the courtyard, though you still do not know the tune. You return to your cot. The dormitory is dim. The fog has returned, brushing softly against the window glass. You sit for a moment, listening. No one speaks, but the building makes its own music. Wood creaking beneath boots, blankets shifting, the low murmur of someone already slipping into dreams. You pull your blanket up to your chin, your fingers still, tinged with soot. You think of the linens, soaked, scrubbed, rinsed, hung, of the coal, sharp-edged, dusty, silent, of the way everything in the workhouse has weight, and yet, somehow, continues moving. And in that thought, something in you rests, not peacefully, but with purpose, not with joy, but with calm. The world seems held in pause this morning, not silent exactly, but wrapped in something even softer than quiet. The kind of stillness that makes you whisper without knowing why. It arrives before the bell, before the light, before even the motion of your own limbs beneath the blanket. You feel it before you see it, in the thickness of the air, in the soft ache in your shoulders from the weight of yesterday's coal buckets. You open your eyes slowly. The dormitory is half lit by the soft glow of a cloudy dawn. The windows are fogged again, but this time with the breath of frost rather than mist. Ice crystals trace slow, silent patterns across the panes, like the fingers of winter pressing gently into glass. You sit up. The air bites at your skin where it meets the edge of the blanket. No one speaks, no one groans, but you can hear the weight of the cold in the way people move, in the stiffness of knees, in the hush of breath escaping through tightly wrapped coats. The bell sounds, its echo thinner than usual, like it too is reluctant to move. You step into your boots. The soles feel harder today, less yielding, but you do not pause. You stand, stretch your arms until the stiffness begins to loosen, and join the silent procession toward the basin. The water is nearly freezing. It doesn't sting. It burns. But you dip your hands in anyway, splash once across your face, and pat dry with a towel already damp from use. Your breath rises in pale clouds. The mirror above the basin is fogged, and you do not bother to wipe it clean. The breakfast hall is quieter than usual, if such a thing is possible. No clatter, no humming, no murmured words, just the soft scrape of spoons against ceramic. The gruel has cooled quickly today. You eat it anyway. You eat everything that is given, not out of hunger, but out of understanding. Each bowl is part of the shape of the day the workhouse gives, in its way, predictably, without kindness, but with structure. That too is a form of comfort. Your task today is candle making. You are led to a low room in the west wing, a place you hadn't noticed before. The scent meets you before you step inside. Warm wax, sharp tallow, the faint sourness of cooling, fat. The room is warmer than the corridor, not because of fire, but because the walls have absorbed years of heat and smoke, and now return it in silence. A long table stretches across the room, covered in rows of dipped wicks drying slowly in the cool air. Beside it, buckets of warm tallow wait, cloudy and fragrant. You are shown how to dip each wick in careful rhythm. Down, pause, up, hang. The wax thickens layer by layer, breath by breath. There is no rush. You are told this without words, only through the pacing of the others beside you. Slow work, repetitive, but gentle. The wax clings to your fingers. It softens your knuckles, masks the smell of coal still lingering from the day before. As the hours pass, you begin to see the shape of the candles form, long and pale, like icicles caught in slow time. You find a rhythm. Dip, breathe, lift, hang. Again, there are others in the room. Older women mostly, their hands steady, their shoulders curved with the weight of years. One hums softly, just a low line of notes, tuneless but comforting. It fills the corners of the room like a lullaby made from habit. A boy younger than you drops a wick into the vat. No one scolds him. He picks it out, wipes it dry, begins again. The morning fades. The bell sounds for midday. You step back from the table, wipe your hands on your apron, and blink slowly, the warm light of the room still caught behind your eyes. Outside, the wind has picked up. It hurries along the walls, scoops dry leaves from corners, rattles a shutter somewhere above. You sit on a bench beside the shed, your bowl in hand. The gruel is thinner today, perhaps stretched further. You sip it slowly, your hands warming around the ceramic edge. The sky remains grey, the kind of grey that has no beginning or end, just endless hush. In the afternoon you are returned to the sewing room. The air here smells of dust and thread and old wool. You are given a jacket to mend, its sleeve ripped at the seam, its buttons missing. You find a spool of coarse black thread, thread your needle with care, and begin to stitch. The cloth is heavy and worn, but it yields to your hand. As you work, your mind drifts. You wonder who wore the jacket. Was it someone from this workhouse? Someone long gone? You imagine him tall, quiet, careful. You imagine his hands like yours, steady, thin, shaped by labour. A woman at the end of the table sneezes softly. No one reacts. The thread slips through the fabric again and again. Your stitches are small and even, not perfect, but enough. You finish the sleeve just as the bell sounds for evening. You fold the coat neatly, place it beside the basket, and nod to the woman nearest you. She does not smile, but she nods in return. Supper arrives warm but silent. You eat, with both hands around the bowl, the heat slowly softening the chill from your skin. Outside, the wind has begun to howl, a long, low sound like someone singing through a closed door. You hear the creak of trees swaying beyond the walls. In the dormitory, the frost has begun to return to the window panes. You pull your blanket up before lying down, the scratchy edge now familiar against your chin. The lamps glow faintly. One flickers. You watch it for a while, until the flickering becomes part of the darkness, then part of your breath. You think of the candles hanging, in rows waiting to be lit, of the wax on your skin, of the coat, now whole again, of the sound the wind makes when it is trying to get in. Your body remembers the tasks of the day, your fingers, the texture of thread, your arms, the weight of soot from yesterday, your breath, the shape of today's silence, and as your eyes begin to close, you know that tomorrow will come in the same rhythm, quiet, careful, measured, not as punishment, but as pattern. The morning light returns slowly, like an old friend who doesn't knock, but simply lets themselves in. It is neither bright nor dull, just even, grey as always, but there's a softness to it today, a kind of hush in the corners, a gentler bend in the air. You feel it before your eyes open fully, a difference too small to name. Perhaps it's only that your body is tired in a quieter way now. No sharp edges of pain, only a long, slow wait, like the workhouse itself has folded itself into your bones. The bell rings. You rise. You fold your blanket once more with the same neat creases. Press your hand across the cot's surface. Reach for your boots. The motions are no longer mechanical. They are familiar, not born of obedience, but from rhythm. You walk to the basin. The water is cold. You do not flinch. Around you, the others move just as silently. A cough, a sniffle, the distant creak of a beam above. Outside the windows, the sky hangs low and pale, neither promising sun nor warning of rain. After breakfast, you are told to report to the chapel. It's not a place. You visit it often, only glimpsed in passing through a quiet doorway, or heard spoken of in calm tones reserved for Sundays. You step carefully through the hall, your boots muted against the stone. The chapel is small, wooden pews worn to a polish by generations of quiet backs. The floor creaks differently here, hollow, deeper, like the sound of breath drawn slowly in. A single oil lamp flickers near the pulpit, its flame thin and long. The light casts shadows in quiet shapes across the stone walls, making the air feel older, more still. You're handed a cloth and a brass-polished tin. You're to clean the candlestands, one by one. The metal is cool under your fingers. Each stand is heavier than it appears. You wipe gently, patiently, watching the shine emerge from beneath the dulled surface. There are wax strips on some, layers of old prayers melted and hardened again. You do not chip them away. You clean around them, leaving their ghosts intact. In the quiet, you hear the distant tapping of rain. Not loud, just a presence, like someone walking slowly through another room. Time stretches in this place. Each movement feels longer, each breath more even. Afterwards, you are told to carry old linens from the infirmary to the laundry house. You lift the bundle carefully. The cloth is clean but worn, soft with age, heavy with damp. You hold it against your chest and step outside. The Desavour wind greets you, gentle but steady. It presses lightly against your coat, slips beneath your collar. You walk past the courtyard, now empty. Past the kitchen, where you smell faint toast, though none was yours. Past the side gate, which creaks faintly on its hinge. In the laundry, steam rises in waves. You leave the linens where you are told, nod to the woman folding sheets, and return into the cooler air. You are sent next to the rear garden, a walled patch of earth, more dirt than green, but here, in its own quiet way, things still try to grow. Cabbage, root vegetables, a few winter herbs. The garden is tended mostly by the elderly. You are told to help them lift water buckets from the small pump. The pump is stubborn. Each stroke takes effort, but you do not mind. The water splashes against the rusted sides of the pail, cold and clean. You carry it to the man crouched near the fence, pour slowly, and wait as he nods his thanks without rising. You notice how his hands tremble as he returns to the soil, and how, despite the tremble, his planting is precise, steady. There is dignity in that. Back inside, you are asked to assist in the clothing room. It is not for mending today, but sorting. Coats that no longer fit one child must be sized for another. You carry them from rack to rack, holding them up to the light to check for wear. One pocket still contains a pebble, smooth and round. You leave it there. Near the door, a ledger lies, open, inked neatly in columned script. The entries are simple: name, item, size, condition, a lifetime reduced to fabric and numbers. You trace the edge of a folded sleeve with your thumb and wonder how many names pass through this room unseen. When evening draws near, you are asked to help prepare lamps. It's one of the quieter tasks. Refilling oil, trimming wicks, lighting, just before supper. You walk the halls, lantern in hand, stopping at each mounted fixture. The flame catches with a soft pop, then steadies into a small, golden glow. By the time you reach the dormitory, your fingers smell of oil, and your coat carries the warmth of firelight. You eat supper in silence. No gruel tonight, just a piece of bread and a mug of warm broth. It tastes of onion, salt, and something else. Maybe time, maybe memory. Across the table, the woman who hummed days ago speaks a single sentence, quietly. Feels colder this week. You nod. The whole room nods, in a way. Back at your cot, you sit a moment longer before lying down. There's a softness to this night that feels almost unfamiliar. Not comfort, but something nearby. The lamps flicker once, then hold steady. A man near. The far wall coughs once, then settles into breathing. You pull the blanket to your chin. The ceiling looks the same, but the crack across it has grown slightly. A new branch in an old tree. You watch it for a while, then close your eyes. You think of the candle stands, glowing gently now in the chapel. Of the man in the garden, kneeling in the cold, planting for a season he may not live to see. Of the lamp you lit last, still burning, above someone's door. Of how, in this place, every task, however small, was folded into the day like thread in a seam. Invisible, but holding everything together. You did not come here to sleep, but you have learned how. You did not come here to understand the workhouse, but you have felt its breath, its rhythm, its silence. And now, as the night folds gently around you, and the flame softens behind your eyelids, you drift, slowly, steadily, into a rest shaped not by comfort, but by knowing. Knowing you survived the day. Knowing the day will come again. The morning arrives not as a light, but as a presence. It doesn't touch you with brightness, but with awareness. The way one knows they're being watched, gently, through a window covered in frost. There is no sound at first, just the quiet weight of another day leaning against the dormitory walls like a tired friend asking to be let in. You're already awake when the bell rings, lying still beneath your coarse blanket, eyes open to the same patch of ceiling you've watched every morning, but today it feels lower, or perhaps you are simply deeper in it. Your body moves slowly now, not with pain, but with history. A slow rise, a stretch not to greet the day, but to fit into its shape. The boots accept your feet like they always do. Cold, familiar. The lace is stiff from the dry damp of yesterday's weather. You tie them without looking. The rhythm is in your hands now. Outside the cot, the dormitory is colder than before. A dampness in the wood. You can smell it, the scent of stone that's breathed in mist and exhaled mildew. At the basin, the water is clear, still indifferent. You dip your hands without thinking, splash your face once, and wipe it dry with a towel that holds the cold as if it belongs to it. Your reflection in the fogged mirror is just a shape, no more distinct than any other. Breakfast is quiet, though not silent. A spoon drops. A throat clears. But there are no voices, just motion. You eat with the same hands that carried coal and shaped candles and folded linen. They know the bowl. They know the rhythm. After breakfast, you're given a different task. Something quieter. The bookroom. You didn't know the workhouse had one. You are led down a narrow corridor you've never noticed, where the air smells of paper and wood smoke, and the floorboards creak with the careful steps of memory. The door to the room is plain, the knob worn from many turns. Inside, the room is neither grand nor small, just unexpected. Shelves line 3 of the walls, filled not with riches, but with quiet. Cloth-bound ledgers, old Bibles, instruction manuals, a few torn storybooks from years long past. Most titles are unreadable now, the spines faded, the lettering worn. A man is seated near the window, copying something from one page to another. His spectacles rest low on his nose. He looks up only briefly and points to a pile in the corner. Books needing dusting, sorting, repair. You begin with a cloth. Each book you lift carries a film of age across its cover. The dust is fine, soft, the kind that moves slowly into the air, not in clouds, but in sighs. You wipe carefully. You don't rush. The cloth gathers the years in folds, and the titles slowly emerge. One book has pressed flowers between its pages, dried, now into memory. Another has the edge of a child's drawing, long faded, tucked between a hymn and a prayer. You do not speak, but you read some words softly to yourself, letting them settle on your tongue like warmth. He that dwelleth in the secret place. You don't finish the line, you just let it sit. Midday comes without a bell in this room. You only know it by the shift of the light. The man by the window nods, as if to say it's time. You return to the main hall, bowl in hand. Today it is thin stew, water, barley, perhaps a bit of onion. You eat slowly on a bench near the stairwell. The air carries the scent of boiled cloth and warm earth. You let it rest in your lungs. In the afternoon, your task is dusting the upstairs corridors, not for punishment, not for cleaning, just part of the day's shape. You are handed a rag and told to start near the south wing, where the windows are, tallest and the air feels furthest from fire. You run the cloth along banisters that curve like old thoughts, over frames that hold no paintings, around corners where no footsteps echo. The dust here is different, older, undisturbed. You pass by rooms you've never entered. Some are silent. Others hold the faint rustle of paper. Once you hear a song, just a few bars of a melody drifting from a door left ajar. It sounds like something sung at sea. It fades before you reach it. In one corridor, you find a window, cracked open, letting in the softest wind. It smells of chimney soot and the last of autumn. You pause, just to breathe it in. By the time the light begins to fade, your cloth is grey, your hands dry, your back bent with a day spent in silence. You are thanked by a nod. You return the cloth. You wash your hands in a basin behind the stairs. The water is cold, but kind. Supper is bread again. A small piece of cheese. A cup of warm water. You eat it by a low window, watching the way the clouds have settled low over the chimneys, holding in the smoke as if the sky itself needed warmth tonight. In the dormitory, the lamps are slower to catch. You light your own with a match and shield the flame as it flickers. When it steadies, the light falls in soft circles across the wooden beams. You lie down, not in exhaustion, but in surrender. You think of the books, the pressed flowers, the soft dust of forgotten words, of banisters smoothed by hundreds of hands, most long gone, of the open window that let in a breath of something that wasn't work or order, but simply air. You pull the blanket up and close your eyes. There is no music, no speech, only the sound of the lamp beside you, its flame dancing, slow against the darkness. This morning the light comes not from above, but from behind the fog, diffused, distant, like candlelight through linen. The dormitory walls hold the dampness close, and the blanket wrapped around you feels heavier than usual, as if it too has soaked in the silence of the night. You don't move right away. The bell hasn't rung yet, but you can already feel the building stirring. It's in the low creak of beams overhead, in the shifting weight of boots against the floorboards, in the breath of someone rising 2 cots down. Eventually, your feet meet the floor. It's cold, of course, but not sharp, not cruel, just present, like a constant reminder that this place was never meant for comfort, only for continuation. At the basin, you wash your face without bracing first. The water is cold, but your skin doesn't react anymore. It simply accepts. You dry your face with a towel that has grown thin from years of service, and make your way quietly to breakfast. The hall smells faintly of burnt oats and damp wool. The gruel today is thinner than yesterday, but slightly warm. You eat it slowly, without hurry, feeling it move gently through you. Not nourishment exactly, but weight. Weight is enough. Today's task takes you to the mending room again, but not for coats or buttons this time. For sacks, burlap sacks that hold potatoes, flour or coal, each one worn down at the corners, torn along seams, patched again and again. You're handed a bundle of them, folded like parchment. Beside you, a needle, thick and curved, a reel of jute thread. You sit at a wooden bench beside a wall with a single high window, the glass clouded with years of steam and smoke. The light through it is soft and grainy. You begin sewing. The burlap scratches at your hands. It resists the needle, but only just. The trick is in moving slowly. No yanking, no forcing, just gentle pressure. Curved stitch after curved stitch, as if the thread already knows the path and simply needs a guide. One sack is stained with old flour, its bottom worn thin from use. Another smells faintly of onion and earth. You mend them both the same way, carefully, precisely, letting the day pass quietly through your fingers. At midday, you stretch your arms. The ache is real, but soft. You feel it deep in your shoulders, in the base of your neck. It's not unpleasant, just honest. You eat in the courtyard today, sitting near a patch of moss that has claimed a corner of stone as its home. The bread is hard, the broth thin, but it warms your throat, and that is enough. The wind carries the scent of rain that hasn't yet arrived. You breathe it in. The afternoon brings a surprise. You are asked to assist in the nursery, not to care for children, but to help tidy. The room is quiet, with only a handful of small voices murmuring in corners. Toys are few, carved wooden blocks, cloth dolls, one ball made from rags wound tight with twine. You are shown where to fold blankets, where to stack wooden puzzles, how to sweep the dust from beneath the cots without waking the smallest ones. You move quietly, careful not to disrupt. A child with fair hair and a smudge on his cheek watches you as you arrange a small row of books. His eyes are not afraid, just curious. You nod. He doesn't smile, but his head tilts slightly. And then he returns to drawing circles on the floor with his finger. The walls here are painted a dull cream, flaking at the corners. A soft blanket hangs from a hook, likely once white, now somewhere between grey and memory. You lift a dropped spoon, place it gently on the shelf, and glance out. The narrow window. The rain has begun after all, tapping lightly against the pane, like fingertips brushing glass in a dream. The matron thanks you as you leave, not with words, but with the softest touch on your shoulder. By the time you reach the hallway, the sound of rain has deepened. You walk slower now, not because of fatigue, but because it fits the tone of the day. Steady, silent, softened by weather. The final task before supper is collecting the laundry lines. Outside, beneath the shelter of the long-arched damp clothes sway in the wind. You unpin each one carefully. Shirts, aprons, small trousers. Some are stained, others threadbare, but each is folded as best as possible and returned to the basket. Your fingers are chilled, but you feel the faint heat rising from the ground stones. The rain's rhythm continues, tap, tap, hush, tap, as if the world itself is falling asleep, one droplet at a time. In the supper hall, the lamps flicker faintly. The gruel has bits of barley tonight. You chew slowly, letting each spoonful settle like warm sand in the cold tide of your belly. Someone near the end of the bench recites a bit of verse under their breath. You can't catch the words, only the cadence. It's beautiful in its own way. Words that rise and fall like breath on a window pane. Back in the dormitory, the rain has grown steadier. The roof above creaks softly with the touch of every drop. You lie on your cot, blanket pulled up, and let the sound fill the space. Around you, it doesn't matter what the next day will be. You do not need to guess. You already know its shape, its silence, its texture. You think of the stitched sacks, the child's wide eyes, the warm breath of barley, the whisper of water on worn stone. And it comforts you, not because it is soft, but because it is steady, predictable, yours in the only way that something in a place like this can be. Morning does not so much arrive today as unfold. It doesn't bloom in through the windows, nor stretch across the dormitory walls. It simply appears, like a thought that's always been there, waiting for you to notice. The cold hasn't lifted, not entirely. It lingers near the cot legs and in the hollows of the floorboards, but it's quieter now, less biting, more like an old ache you've grown used to carrying. You open your eyes slowly. There's no sound but the soft shifting of blankets and breath. No coughing, no whispers. Just the hum of existence in a shared room, where no one is ever truly alone, yet where solitude still lingers like a coat draped over the back of a chair. The bell rings eventually, but it feels far away. You rise anyway. Fold the blanket, smooth the bedding, step into your boots. The motions are part of you now, not habit, not duty, just what the morning asks for. At the basin, the water is colder than yesterday. Your fingers tremble slightly as you wash. Not from fear, not from fatigue. Simply because some days are colder than others, and there's no complaint to be made about it. You wipe your face on the sleeve of your coat when the towel is already damp. The gruel this morning is thin. No barley, no salt, just warmth. You eat slowly, seated at the far end of the bench where no one speaks, where the spoon moves like a pendulum in your hand. Forward, back, forward, pause. The texture is smooth, the steam fleeting. You swallow each spoonful as though it was something precious, even if it isn't. Today, you're sent to help in the hallway near the infirmary. Not for cleaning, not for mending, just to carry. Bedsheets mostly, some too stiff with starch, others too soft from washing. You carry them in bundles across the floorboards, which creak and groan like they're trying to recall every step that's passed across them before yours. The air near the infirmary is different. There's something hushed about it. Not forced, silence, but a quiet born from waiting. The kind of stillness that wraps around people who have already been told what they must bear. One of the nurses nods toward a basket near the window. It's filled with towels, rolled and folded. You pick it up carefully, steadying your arms, and follow her gesture toward the narrow back corridor. The floor here is uneven. The plaster is flaking at the edges. There's no conversation, no explanation. Just tasks, quiet ones. You set the towels down beside a door that's slightly ajar. Inside, an old man lies still. You don't stare. You simply leave the basket gently beside the frame and move on. Later, you return to the main ward to collect the linen scraps. Most are stained, torn, not useful anymore. You don't flinch. You gather them with both hands, feeling the warm spots where bodies once lay. The cloth is thin, almost weightless. Midday comes without ceremony. The soup is little more than water, with leaves in it, possibly cabbage, or maybe something that only tastes like cabbage. You sip it from the tin cup, both hands wrapped around it like it holds something more than liquid. Someone next to you sneezes, and you offer your cloth. They nod without words. The exchange is gentle, wordless. Human, the afternoon brings a return to the sewing room, but today the sewing isn't for repair. It's for purpose. You're asked to help stitch burial cloths. No one explains it. No one says the word. But when the white fabric is laid before you, so still, so exact, you know. The thread is black. The stitches are wide. These aren't garments. They're gestures. Final ones. You don't ask who they're for. You simply work. The cloth is cool under your fingers. It slides beneath the needle with a weight that's hard to name. You sew in silence, the way one might listen to a lullaby played very far away. Soft, distant, but utterly complete. Another stitch, another fold. The work is slow, but it does not feel heavy in your chest. In fact, there's a peace in it. Not joy, not sorrow, just completion. A kindness made with cloth. When the cloth is done, it's folded and set aside. You don't ask where it will go. You return the needle. You stretch your arms. You look out the window. The sky is pale, and in its stillness you see a bird. A single one, moving across the clouds, alone, steady, deliberate. You watch it disappear into the pale. Supper that evening is shorter than usual. No one eats quickly, but no one lingers either. The conversation is absent, though not tense. Everyone seems to understand that tonight is the kind of night where silence is more nourishing than speech. You return to your cot early. You sit for a while before lying down. You press your hands to your knees. You stretch your feet inside your boots. You listen to the quiet scratch of someone folding their coat nearby. A window groans. A breath is held, then released. You lie back. The ceiling has not changed. The crack still runs along its center like a thread pulled too tight but never snapping. You follow it with your eyes until it vanishes into shadow. You think of the burial cloth, the softness of it, the way it did not resist the thread. You think of the man in the infirmary, of the folded towels, of the unseen end to so many names, and you breathe, not deeply, not purposefully, just slowly, enough to know you're still here, that your breath still makes a sound in the quiet. When the morning comes, it doesn't enter the room, it seeps in. A dull light, softened by thick cloud, trickles through the warped panes of glass like old milk across a wooden tabletop. You open your eyes, not with urgency, but with the weight of familiarity pressing lightly on your chest. The air feels soaked before you've even risen. The walls have absorbed the rain from the night, and now breathe it back. Cool, damp, carrying the faint metallic scent of oxidized hinges and worn stone. You sit up slowly. You can hear the water running in the gutters outside, a constant stream steady as breath. The floorboards are colder than before. You place your feet on them gently, your souls waking to the chill in silence. The dormitory is quiet today, not hushed with tension, just dulled, like everything inside it has softened from the soaking. At the basin, the water runs slow and reluctant from the tap. You cup it, splash it across your face, and dry your cheeks on the least wet edge of a communal towel. The mirror doesn't show your face today, only fog. It's like looking into the past through breath. You make your way to the meal hall. Breakfast is barely a breath of steam and gruel, but it arrives on time. You eat it methodically, not with anticipation, but with the knowledge that it too marks the beginning of the day. Around you, spoons clink in quiet rhythm, and rain continues its patient drumming on the roof above. The task you're assigned today takes you to the stairwell, a place not given to routine work. But today, something has changed. Water has pooled in the corner of the landing, a leak perhaps, or just the work of wind carrying last night's storm into the cracks between roof tiles. You're handed a mop, not one of wood and yarn, but a length of coarse cloth tied to a stick, primitive but functional. You press it into the shallow puddles, wring it in a rusted bucket, and begin again, over and over. The steps are worn smooth from 1,000 soles, and they glisten now under the thin sheen of moisture. As you work, you feel the damp creep through the fabric of your sleeves. It doesn't bother you. The cold no longer surprises. It just becomes part of the atmosphere. A background sensation, like the scent of boiled cabbage or the faint ache in your knees. From the stairwell, you're sent to the back hall, where crates need lifting. They're not heavy, just awkward. One is filled with small tin cups, another with boots, old, cracked, mismatched, their leather worn into strange creases by long-forgotten feet. You carry them one at a time, down the corridor with the bowed ceiling, your boots echoing softly on the stone. There is no rush, no raised voices, only the task, and the wet air that sticks to your neck like a memory. Midday brings a change in the air, though not in the sky. The clouds remain low and bruised, but the wind has slowed. You sit in the laundry alcove with your bowl of stew, rooty and bland, but thick enough to warm your fingers. You sip it while looking at a single droplet that clings to the rim of the windowsill, growing slowly heavier until it lets go. The drip lands silently on the stone below. A woman nearby mends a pillowcase with small, even stitches. She hums something, not a melody, just a thread of sound pulled softly through the stillness. In the afternoon, you are brought to the coat store. You've been here before, but today it's different. You're told to sort them, by length, by wear, by smell if needed. You run your hands across heavy wool and brittle thread, feeling the difference between coats worn by children and those once hung from the shoulders of men too large for this place. One coat smells of tobacco, faint and old, like it was smoked, beside a river rather than inside these walls. Another has a patch on the elbow made from a different colour fabric. You run your thumb across it, wondering if the patch was sewn here or elsewhere. Perhaps in a home long gone. You don't speak to the others sorting with you, but every now and then a glance is exchanged when a particularly worn collar or torn hem is found. No words needed, just understanding. You fold each coat with care, as though each one belonged to someone still watching, still waiting. Before supper, you are asked to carry buckets of kindling to the kitchen. The wood is damp, so it smells sweeter than usual. Sawdust and smoke and something almost like moss. You stack the logs beside the stove and feel a brief burst of warmth as the fire crackles to life inside the iron belly of the range. The woman tending the pot nods once, handing you a cup. It's not gruel, just hot water, but it holds more comfort than most meals. You sip it slowly, the heat spreading through your mouth, into your chest, softening something you hadn't noticed had gone hard. Supper is quiet. The room smells of damp clothes and warm broth. You eat in silence. At your cot, the blanket feels heavier tonight, as though it is soaked in the rain just by being nearby. You pull it over your shoulders, let it settle into the spaces around you. Outside, the rain has started again, not in great waves, not in storms, just in a constant whisper, like the sound of fabric being folded again and again without ever creasing. You close your eyes and think not of the workhouse as a place, but as a sound, a rhythm, a long, slow unfolding of small tasks of stitched cloth, of measured footsteps across stone. You remember the coats, the rain, the firelight, the soft sip of hot water in the middle of a long grey afternoon, and it cradles you, not like a mother, not like a friend, but like time itself, tireless, unchanging, gently pushing you forward. The morning begins before it's light. There's a sound you don't quite recognize at first, like fabric being dragged gently over wood. Then the familiar creak of a floorboard, followed by the bell. Not loud, not sudden, just enough to let the air know that sleep must begin to lift its hand. You open your eyes, but don't move yet. The dormitory is still steeped in grey. No sun, no shadow, just a veil of colourless hush wrapped tightly around every bedpost and beam. You lie there a little longer, letting the slow return of consciousness drift through your limbs like warm water seeping back into dry earth. When you rise, the cold is waiting. It isn't cruel, it's just present, like a conversation that's continued without you through the night and now expects your silent nod. At the basin, the water is still and waiting. You splash once, twice. The towel is dry in only the middle, and you use it without complaint. The mirror is fogged again, and you catch only a pale outline of your own face. No detail, no surprise, just the confirmation that yes, you are still here. Breakfast is the same. Gruel with little weight and less flavour. A crust of bread, perhaps from a loaf baked 2 days ago. It is all eaten quietly. The dining hall hums, with the same low notes of tin spoons, shallow breathing and shuffling boots. Today you are sent to the sorting room. It is not a place of noise, only texture. Bags of donated clothing are tipped out across long tables. Worn coats, children's shoes, mismatched gloves. Some pieces still carry the scent of coal fires and kitchen smoke from homes far beyond these walls. You begin by separating the salvageable from the soiled. The fabric under your hands tells you its own story. Frayed cuffs that speak of work. Worn knees that speak of play. Buttons missing, but buttonholes still hopeful. You pause over a child's cap. Wool, faded blue. A single white thread running through the rim like someone once tried to make it cheerful. You place it with care in the mend pile, not because it will be worn again, but because it once mattered. The light in the sorting room is filtered through dust. Shafts of pale morning sun slide between the slats of warped shutters, laying lines of gold on the tables like quiet paths. You don't follow them, but you notice. By midday, your hands smell of old cloth and starch. Lunch is stew again, thin flecked with what might be barley or onion skin. The heat is welcome, and you cradle the tin bowl like it might warm more than just your fingers. The bench beneath you creaks as you shift. Someone says nothing beside you, and you answer with a nod you never fully offer. After the meal, the matron pulls you aside. No reprimand, no command, just a soft gesture and a key. The tool shed, it isn't a punishment, only a task. The key is cold in your palm. The shed sits at the far edge of the property, beside the outer garden wall. Its roof is low, and its door sticks when opened. Inside, there is a smell of damp earth and worn wood, of rust and old oil, of rope and metal kept just dry enough to survive. Your job is simple: sort, clean, stack. Rakes leaned against broken crates, lanterns with blackened chimneys, a bag of bent nails, heavy and quiet. You begin with the shelves, wiping away layers of dust that puff up around your sleeves and settle again just as easily. There's something comforting about the place. It doesn't ask anything from you. It doesn't speak. It only offers the weight of objects too useful to throw away, too worn to be proud of, tools that have worked longer than most hands that now hold them. You find a hammer with initials carved into the handle, WH, or maybe MH. The wood has split slightly along the curve of the grip. You place it beside the others, as if returning it to old friends. You stay in the shed longer than you expected. The air is cool but not biting. The quiet not hollow, but full. When the afternoon bell rings, it feels far away. Back inside, the dormitory is being cleaned, beds turned down, floors swept. The scent of lye lingers in the corners like a warning to dust. You are asked to help carry cots to the drying room. The legs squeal across the floor in protest, and you lift them higher, careful not to scrape. The wood. One of the cots is lighter than the others. You look at the mattress and realize this one hasn't been used in weeks. No imprint, no stains, just a flat, forgotten square of ticking. You carry it gently. Supper is late. The kitchen fire has gone slow, and the cook is quieter than usual. But the broth is warm and there is bread. You sit near the same mossed corner of stone you often return to. The sky outside is shifting shades of grey, like wet linen being folded in a slow wind. You finish your meal without remembering each bite. The lamps are lit one by one. Their glow is small, like flickers of memory cast onto the worn wood of the ceiling. You climb into your cot, pulling the blanket to your chin, and listen to the low hush of breath all around you. The room settles like soil after rain, soft, firm, patient, and your body follows. You close your eyes and feel the day in your hands, in the cloth, in the key, in the weight of things once held and now set down. You feel the shed, the rakes, the old nail bag, the forgotten cot, the child's hat. These are not stories, they are textures. They are the colour of quiet things. The sound that wakes you today is not the bell. It's softer. A faint tapping, like someone gently shaking water from their fingertips. You blink slowly, eyes adjusting not to light, but to the grey stillness of a sky that doesn't want to rise. Rain again. But this time, not urgent, just there. Present in the eaves, in the corners of the ceiling, in the hush of everything. You don't move right away. Instead, you let yourself drift in the thin space between dreaming and waking, where time doesn't speak in hours, but in feelings. You lie there, wrapped in the rough weight of your blanket, letting the distant tap of water mark the passing moments like a lullaby played on stone. Eventually, you sit up. Your boots are where you left them. Your coat, folded neatly on the foot of your cot, still carries yesterday's dampness in its cuffs. You stand, stretch slowly, and walk to the basin. The water today is colder than usual. Startling, then familiar. You cup it to your face, press it into your skin, and breathe. The mirror fogs from your breath, then clears again. You make your way to the morning meal. The dining hall is quieter than usual. No clatter, just motion, spoons in bowls, steam lifting and vanishing. The gruel has changed slightly, thicker today, though you're not sure why. You eat without thinking, and the warmth sits in your chest like a quiet stone. Today's task begins in the corridor outside the laundry. You are handed a box of worn buttons, each one waiting to be rethreaded onto something. Metal, wood, bone. A few painted glass ones too, chipped at the edges but still catching the light. You sit near the door, the cold draft at your back, and begin matching thread to holes. There's no urgency, no rush to finish, just the steady rhythm of the needle, moving through time-worn cloth, pulling something broken just slightly closer to whole. The corridor smells of soap and heat and stone. Voices pass nearby now and then, low, soft, carrying snippets of weather reports and cloth counts. You keep your eyes down, fingers working slowly, letting the morning blur. At midday, the rain begins to speak louder. You are asked to bring in the clothes from the line, though many are already soaked through. You lift the fabric one piece at a time, its weight doubled by rain, its shape clinging to itself like a memory not ready to be put down. Inside, the washroom is warmer. The fire under the copper kettle crackles softly. Steam rises from the basins in long, slow curls, clouding the window glass and gathering on your lashes. You hang the wet garments on wooden racks stretched above the fire. The warmth rises to your face. You close your eyes for a moment, just breathing. There's comfort in the smell of wet cloth, soap and ash. Not sweetness, not familiarity, just presence. You return to the sewing bench afterward. Your hands are pink from the heat and wringing. You press them flat against the wood to feel it cool them down. The buttons are still waiting. You thread another, then another. Later, you are asked to sweep the back corridor. The broom is old, the bristles worn thin and soft. You press it too, the stones gently, letting it guide itself, the motion barely more than a whisper. There are voices ahead, quiet ones from behind the closed door of the infirmary. You don't listen. You just let the sound settle into the air beside you. Part of the story you will never hear the end of. When you pause, you look out the window. The rain has lessened. The sky has turned from grey to pale grey. A small victory. Supper is served earlier than usual. Bread, broth, a single pear, soft with ripeness. The juice surprises you. It is sweet, fleeting, and reminds you, for a moment, of something outside these walls, something with trees, leaves, wind. You let the taste linger before swallowing. Evening comes with no announcement. The lamps flicker earlier, trying to warm the corners of a room grown colder from the day's dampness. You return to your cot and sit without lying down, just sitting, letting the day leave your bones slowly. You glance around the dormitory. every cot filled, everybody moving in familiar motions. One man refolds his socks for no reason. A woman kneels to fix the hem of her apron. A boy wraps his coat under his blanket, chasing warmth. And in all of it, there is no hurry, just ritual, just the quiet inside the walls. The rain begins again, not sharp, not wild, just a soft returning. Like someone remembering a story and saying, "Ah yes, that's how it went." You lie back, you feel the scratch of wool beneath your palms, the press of your coat against your ribs, the slow settling of breath into your chest. You don't think of what tomorrow brings. You think of buttons, rain, thread slipping through worn cloth, the fire's steam against your skin, the soft surprise of a pair, all quiet things, all real. The morning does not come all at once. It trickles in, like tea poured from a pot held slightly too high. A slow stream of light that slips over the edges of the dormitory windows, brushes across the cots, and pools gently on the floor without making a sound. You open your eyes to find the same ceiling overhead, the same familiar crack, the same grey wash of shadows in the beams. But there is something softer in the air today. Not warmth exactly, but stillness. A stillness so complete that even the cold doesn't seem in a hurry to move. You rise quietly. No one speaks. At the basin, the water is slow to come. You don't mind. You let your hands rest under the stream, palms open, watching the way droplets gather and fall. You wash your face slowly, as if you have all the time in the world. And today, you almost believe you do. The mirror shows the fog of your breath, and behind it, your face is pale and calm. Not tired, not afraid, just here, present. As much a part of the workhouse as the stone walls and the worn planks of the bois hall. Breakfast is served without fanfare. A cup of warm broth, a slice of coarse bread. You take both in hand and sit near the end of the bench. Around you, others eat the same way, quietly, steadily, like the act of eating is a meditation in itself. No one complains. No one rushes. Today, the task is different. There is no assignment. You are told to wait in the corridor near the chapel. You haven't been inside before. The door is narrow, the floor sloped, the windows higher than a man could reach. The light here is different, thinner, almost silver in colour, like it belongs more to the sky than to the ground. While you wait, you are given a small cloth to fold, then another, and then another. Your fingers move without thought. It's the kind of work you could do with your eyes closed. You begin to notice the way the air shifts near the ceiling beams, the sound of footsteps 2 floors above, the scent of candle wax mixed with old hymnals. You think of all the quiet places in the workhouse, the laundry, the yard wall, the sorting bench, the stairwell. This one feels the quietest, not because it is still, but because nothing here asks for noise. Eventually, a door creaks. You are invited to step inside the chapel, not for prayer, but to help with dusting. The pews are bare, the floor worn smooth from decades of footsteps. A single candle burns at the far end, and its scent, faint and sweet, hangs just above your head like a forgotten lullaby. You clean slowly, polishing the edge of the benches, wiping down the lectern. straightening hymn books with covers that have faded into soft shades of brown and cream. There is no one else in the room but the caretaker, and he says nothing, just moves like a ghost through the far aisle, tending to things only he knows. You pause by the window, the rain has stopped, and for the first time in days, maybe weeks, you see blue. Not much, just a patch. Just enough to remind you that the sky is still out there, beyond the soot, beyond the stone, beyond even the memory of what you used to know. You return to your task. The chapel clock ticks softly. You hear it more than you feel it, like a heartbeat at the edge of the world, every second like a grain of sand slipping through the cloth of your thoughts. By midday, the room has changed, not in shape, not in sound, but in feeling. The light it has grown thicker, golden now, like honey held near a flame. You are told you may leave for the meal. You nod and walk back into the corridor with steps that sound like echoes. Lunch is stew again. But today, someone has added a bit of parsley. It floats like a green feather on the surface. You spoon it up slowly. It doesn't change the flavour, but it changes the moment. Just a little. You sit near the kitchen wall and feel the warmth of the stove pass through the stone into your spine. This afternoon, you return not to the sewing rooms, nor the yard, nor the hall. You are sent to the storeroom. There you are, asked to help take inventory, something rarely done unless prompted by reason. You open a crate. Inside, candles bundled twine, a pair of leather-bound books. The pages are yellowed, the text handwritten. You lift one and flip through gently. Receipts, records, notes about bread deliveries and soap shipments from years ago. Pages that have been touched by hands you'll never know. You place it back. Neatly, you dust the shelves, line up jars of paste and sacks of flour. You count each as if they matter, because in places like this, they do. Before the day ends, you are handed a broom and told just the West Hall. You walk there slowly. Each sweep of the broom is like a breath. In, out, in, out. You notice the little things. The flecks of paper near the baseboards. The spider web just beginning near the oil lamp. The hairline crack in the stone floor that seems deeper than you remember. You follow it with your eyes until it disappears beneath the door. Supper is brief, no, talking. Just the clink of bowls, the scrape of spoons, the final nourishment of the day. You finish, fold your hands, and watch the flame of the nearest lamp tremble slightly. And then it is time to rest. You return to your cot. You sit for a long moment before lying down. You place your hands flat on your blanket. Feel its weight, its roughness, its age. You close your eyes, and your thoughts are not of escape, not of longing, not even of change. Your thoughts are made of thread and buttons, of stones and steam, of quiet candlelight and dust. You think of a hallway swept clean, of a coat folded neatly, of a single green leaf floating in a bowl of soup. You think of breath. You think of stillness. You think of how the days repeat, but never the same. How each one is shaped by silence and softened by the rituals that keep you human. And you think, perhaps this is how it was always meant to be. Not joyful, not cruel, just steady. A rhythm of small labours, of quiet moments, of things gently tended to. You breathe in, you breathe out.